So welcome to the Taste of Orsk webinar, which we've entitled Beyond Command and Control in the Workplace.
One of a number of key things that we see happening within the leadership realm. And we're really excited to engage you in a conversation about what we're seeing, what we're finding in the teams that we work with.
Yeah, I'm Mish Middelmann. I'm been a coach for about 10, 11 years. Before that, I was a CEO. So I got into that whole thing of how do I get the results? How do I get my people to deliver? And I suppose part of what eventually made me sell my company and go into coaching was realizing there were a lot of skills for employee engagement that I didn't have, that I was better at managing managers than nurturing and creating leaders. And I guess that's still the energy that's driving me here tonight.
My name is Ronnie Ndlovu. I worked in corporate before going into my own business and eventually getting into coaching. And what really drove me is that I was more of the recipient of a leadership style that said, come to work, leave your persona behind, accept your skills, and just accept that you're a cog in the wheel. And I thought something was a bit shy of what the truth was, and that companies were failing to leverage our potential fully. So I got in, and I've been driven by that throughout my coaching career. So I've been coaching for quite a while now and really enjoying working with teams and engaging with the kind of topical conversation we're talking about at the moment.
Just a big warm welcome to you all, and a few people are still joining. What we're planning to do in the hour that we have is to just really position this and just talk a little bit about our experience. We really work with a wide range of corporate, non-profit, large, small businesses, leadership teams, and general staff of a number of organizations. A little bit about what we've seen, why we chose the topic, and then really invite you all into a conversation where we try and build a sort of roadmap of how things are, where things are going, what we're really wanting to achieve. I just want to welcome Tabi, who's using the chat line. We're expecting quite a lot of people tonight, so we're just going to talk for a little bit now, but we really invite you to use the chat line to kind of create a multimedia experience as we go. Right. And having built that roadmap, we're going to give you a bit of a chance to really apply it to your own situation. And from there, we're going to really go to, so what's next for us? What's next for us in really going beyond command and control and still getting things done? So that's the sort of very brief outline of what we have in mind. Yeah.
So one of the things that we're noticing is that there is kind of a shift that is starting to happen within the organizations we work with. People really calling for more collaboration and challenging management to step up in that direction. And so it's more collaboration, engage us. We've got a lot to offer. Let's have those collegiate conversations. And let's continue building organizations that are quite productive and deliver on the financial goals that they are there for in the first place.
It seems to me that most people today fundamentally expect to be consulted. They expect to be involved. They don't. In our parents' days, it seemed to me people expected more or less to go to work and be told what to do. And I just don't think that flies anymore.
And there's a huge fallout. I mean, when leaders don't really respond to that call, people really sort of disengaging or disconnected. And the more they raise their voices and the more they're ignored, sort of starting to exit the organization. Really living to that good old adage, we know that people don't leave organizations, they leave leaders. So we're seeing quite a bit of that happening. And so a lot of exit interviews would talk about people feeling I'm not stimulated. I'm quite frustrated. And I want to look for an employer or an organization that's really going to leverage my talents and really leave me engaged and fulfilled. Yeah, so I'm really seeing that happening quite a bit in the teams with which we work.
I think what really got us going on this webinar was the fact that everybody more or less agrees that we need to go beyond command and control, and yet going there seems to be quite difficult. We had somebody in one of our courses just a month or two ago who said to me, you know, Mish, I work in a large medical healthcare, you know, in a large hospital chain. And I think she's something in the operating theatre, so the kind of heart of the hospital. And she said, we all believe that there's got to be a team of doctors and nurses and pharmacists and service providers and cleaners and everybody. It's got to be a team that's centered around the patient. And she said, but none of us do it. None of us do it. We all believe in being, in their case, patient-centered, other businesses, client or customer-centered. But none of us do it. She said the doctors just tell everyone what to do. Lots of the nurses just stonewall, just sort of back off and feel like, well, I'll just do my job. And I said, yeah, where do you draw from to get better? She said, well, you know, my background, I grew up in a family where my dad just told us all what to do. I went to a school where the teachers told us all what to do. I don't have a tradition to draw on for this new world that we believe in, where we go beyond command and control, even though we believe in it.
Another executive I was working with said, I see the results of the command and control style of leadership. I see people disengaged. I see people exiting the organization. And I resolve within myself, intellectually at least, that I'm going to change. I really want to shift towards a more engaging, more inclusive style of leadership. But when the pressure is on, the deadlines are looming, and the turnarounds are increasingly becoming smaller or shorter for delivery, I kind of slip back to my old MO. Knowing that I am going there, but frustrated in not knowing how to move forward, and if I've made some gains, how to sit with those gains and continue growing in the direction of a new way of leading. So sitting with this whole aspect of a realization and a sense of helplessness about not being able to make that shift. And we know that, and we know now from experience that unless people have some assistance, they tend to fall back on what is comfortable.
So that's the sort of landscape that we want to play in with you this evening for us, this afternoon for some of you who are in the US. And, you know, we were planning this. We weren't quite sure whether to invite a check-in for everybody.
Yes.
And we know with large webinars, having a check-in can get quite complex. But I'm wondering, Ronnie, if we should just change our plan and invite a quick.
Yeah, I think, let's see. Maybe we may just request that we bottom line around it.
Yeah, it's to check in with something that brought you to this thing. Right. Anybody want to go? Just to greet your colleagues on this webinar. Otherwise, I'm going to roll call from the top of my screen. Mark, will you go first?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right.
Go ahead, Mark, and then Jill.
Hello, everyone. I'm very new to this whole idea of coaching and so on. I was recommended by a psychologist that maybe I would be a good coach because I kind of seem to have some understanding of people. And yeah, so I met Mish a couple of months ago just to talk about coaching. And this really, in a way, is my sort of first experience of meeting other people and, you know, and kind of getting more of a feel for things.
Thanks, Mark. Welcome. Jill's next, and then Jenny.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Schichter. I actually work for CRR Global in North America. I'm based in Canada. And I was very curious today to see what Mish and Ronnie had come up with, since the issue of command and control in the workplace is a universal issue in this new world of work now.
Right.
Thank you. Welcome. Jenny next, and then Tabi. If you can unmute Jenny, yeah, there we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny. I'm calling in from Johannesburg, and it's nice to see you, Mish and Ronnie, again. Yes, I've been on a few ORS courses, and I was thinking about today, this webinar coming, and I feel like my ORS is my space where I re-energize myself. I've had a very draining day, actually dealing with someone who operates in a command and control manner. That wasn't why I signed up for the course, but it just happened to coincide with my day-to-day.
Yeah.
So I'm very conscious of how exhausting it is to work with people who are actually very controlling, but because of the new paradigm, they pretend like they're not. And people are finding new, more subtle means of control because it's not politically correct anymore to be that commanding, domineering boss, but it's still there. And I think those subtle dynamics can be even more difficult to deal with and even more difficult to coach because people are almost in denial of their controlling nature. So that's what I'm a little bit curious about. And then the other side I'm curious about is the younger generation that, again, almost like you were saying, doesn't want to be commanded, but does. When you give them freedom, then they don't know what to do.
That's true.
And I've also worked with a few like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
Tabi, if you'd like to unmute and check in, and then Klaus will be next.
Hi, everybody. I'm not new to coaching as such. I've done coaching with result coaching, and I wanted to get into coaching back again. And so I was looking around what's available out there. What attracted me on today's topic is that what is it beyond command and control? Because where I am, there is a little bit of both. I'm encountering people that actually want to be controlled and commanded, and that also is exhausting. And then the other way also is exhausting. And so for me, I need to, like the other gentleman here, what happened is when I come across the people that want to be controlled, then it's frustrating, and then I'm not so, but it's not very nice, because then I get very frustrated. It comes out in how I interact with them, and I don't like, so I tend to be able to handle that when I come across that situation. I'm more at ease with people who are forthcoming and are able to start and do things and engaged and come up with solutions. I'm very comfortable with that kind of an environment. So but I wanted to find out, I'm going to learn today and see how far I'm going to go with it with you guys.
Great. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Klaus, will you go next, and then Michelle?
Sure. I don't know what the check-in is. Sorry for getting in late. I had to fish this email out of my junk folder. I don't know why it always lands up in there. But so my name is Klaus. I'm in Cape Town. I'm fortunate enough to be certified in ORSC. I know command and control from my own internal being, and it's not an easy animal to tame, but it does need work. So I'm curious about this topic.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks and welcome. Yeah.
Michelle next, and then Refilwe.
Hi there. I'm Michelle. I'm an executive coach based in Toronto, and did an ORS course with you, Mish. So that was part of the draw. I think the main reason why I'm here actually and was drawn into the topic actually is twofold very quickly. One is I work a lot with startups, and with startups, they're all about collaboration, but it's got to get done. And we have to do command, and it has to happen, and we know the way. And so they just can't let go. So I'm really kind of curious about that because that's something that they really struggle with. And then also the thing that I personally, I think probably even on a more existential level, is in this day and age when the leaders that are rising to the top are all about command and control and are these horrific leaders, including, you know, we're dealing with stuff here in Canada right now, as well as being next door to the States. You know, how do you handle that when people, because I've had people say to me, okay, that's all fine and dandy, these new leadership models, but look who wins. Right? So it's just that those are the two things that I'm struggling with right now.
Right.
So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Refilwe. I also did ask myself, I'm based in Johannesburg. I think what brought me in was curiosity. So it's knowing, having learned the power of ask, but then also in application. I think for me, it serves as a reminder, but also to learn more in terms of how really to live the work and being at home, outside in organizations, because like Michelle had just alluded and everybody else, the command and control is so powerful that how does one shift the thinking and eventually apply it? So curiosity is the key thing for me.
Thank you and welcome. Isaac's next, and then after Isaac, Lolo.
Oh, there's another person. Hi, my name is Isaac. I'm from an organization called Takano, and we got the invitation through our external evaluator, Barbara. I don't know if Barbara Klukman. But yes, I'm also interested in the topic. So we also a startup. We're in our second year now. And we have gone with this route of everybody's voices must be heard, and how do we create those spaces? But for us, it's going a bit pear-shaped because we don't use command and control. So what does diversity then really mean, and how do we coach beyond that? Because we've been to coaching, we've just gone through a major OD process, organizational development process. We're 18 months old, and the list is endless. So then the topic then interests me in like, then how do you bring in the checks and balances in creating a diverse space, creating an opportunity for everybody to bring their voice to the table and stuff like that. And just by the way, we only 9 staff members, so it's very, very difficult for us to navigate through these new ways of working that we don't have in-depth knowledge in our organization of.
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put my video off again because my internet just dropped. So I'm on a mobile line. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. I think Lolo is next, and then Rika. Lolo, if you can unmute, then we'll hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry you can't see me. I'm also having some technical problems with my internet connection, and it's easier this way. I'm based in Johannesburg, and I'm a leadership and team coach. I'm very interested in the topic. Incidentally, I didn't see the email, and I didn't know that this was the topic, but I'm so happy to hear that this is what we are discussing for all the reasons that everybody has said. So I'm very happy. Thank you, Mish. We've met with Mish. He's been my coach at one point when I was going through some leadership issues, although he couldn't remember me. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Lolo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Elizabeth N.
Hi.
It's, I think, Rika.
Is it Rika? Sorry.
Hi, I'm Rika. I'm busy with ORSC accreditation this year. I work in a company where I do some ORSC coaching as well as a whole bunch of other things. And one of the main reasons why I was interested in this course is, as many people have mentioned and Mish has mentioned, there's a thing in companies with command and control, and I've got some challenges with certain people around exactly that. So looking for input and alternative ways.
Thank you and welcome, Rika.
And I think next is Elizabeth Ann, if you can unmute.
Hi, so I'm from Joburg. Yeah, I think it's more out of curiosity that I've come on the call. I work for a financial institute, and at the moment I'm trying to fit in the new ways of work where there is no command and control, and the people around me have command and control. So it becomes very exhausting trying to be the lonely standby to protect the team, to give them the, I want to say, the free will, and you've got the command and control coming from the other side.
Wow. Thanks, Elizabeth Ann, and welcome. Jill, if you'd like to go next, and then Gail. You muted, Jill?
Yeah. Hi, yeah, I'm just interested. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, my bandwidth is also very low. So I'm in Cape Town, and I'm just interested to find out more about ORSC. I'm a coach, and I work in Agile, and I've heard about ORSC, and I'd just like to find out some more. So I'm here.
Wonderful, welcome. Gail. Still on mute? Are you there, Gail? I'm going to try unmuting you from my end. Are you there, Gail? Okay. Well, we'll keep rolling, and if whatever's holding you back comes right, then please bring your voice in. Fabulous to hear all your voices, and we're playing with the virtual space here. We do this work virtually a bit of the time, but we do also enjoy working with people face to face, and we're experimenting with how to work with a group like this that isn't a team that regularly works together. So that was the point of the check-in, was for you just to hear each other and get a feel for who's in this virtual space with you.
Thank you for sharing some similar voices and also some diverse voices. So we're already excited at sitting with difference here. And so, yeah, without much ado, I think we're going to go and start working with a roadmap that we found very useful when we work with clients, and getting them to really understand where they are now and what's sort of emerging for them around a new way of leading, and the kind of things that get in the way, the blockages, the things that are hard to be with as people contemplate changing their leadership styles. So what you see there is a diagram. It's an upside down V. And on the left-hand side, we've got what you call primary. And when we talk of primary, we're talking about what's happening now, what's the current experience around leadership. And on the right-hand side, we've got what we call secondary. And what's emerging? What's emerging around leadership? What are some of the things that are not yet acknowledged or really brought into consciousness? And then in the middle, shown by the red lettering, is edge. And that's where the real work happens when one is changing. So what's hard to be with? What comes up when we think of a new way of being that we don't really know or are comfortable with, that gets in the way of getting there? So we're going to be playing with that roadmap in a short while.
Yeah, so I just want to acknowledge that this model of change comes from Arnie Mandel's work, and we think it's fabulous because it's so simple. It obviously oversimplifies, but we think it's extremely useful as a way of helping us to take stock of a change that is emerging. I don't know how many of you have got have got screens where you can see the pictures, but we are going to carry on with a sort of virtual flip chart in which we're going to just kind of make some notes as you speak. If you are watching it on the screen, ignore the things that say placeholder on the left. They're just a virtual way of us keeping on writing. But we really want to ask you, if you look at this at the workplace that we've all checked in around, around this kind of both and of leaders having an urge to control, people wanting freedom, people expecting to be told what to do, things going pear-shaped around delivery when you have too much freedom. Help us to populate that. What is the now like in today's workplaces in South Africa and in Canada? What is the now actually like, what we've called the primary? And just really inviting anybody to speak. I'm going to make some notes from what you've already said, but inviting any of you to speak about what you're seeing in the workplace right now.
Okay, I'm gonna just take a shot at it. So like I said earlier on, what I'm seeing is a challenge between the command and control and letting go. You've got areas where there are people who still want to be commanded and controlled, but also you have people who want to let go, and so that's happening, at least in my space.
Mm-hmm. And hearing that it's happening at
I've kind of observed a little bit.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
So I've kind of observed a little bit that there's like more of like a trust issue.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't command and control, I'm not too sure if I can trust the environment. So there's a lot of judgment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put that up on the edge there, because it's, I think part of what happens at the edge is we don't quite know how to trust each other. There's something new going on. Something is emerging in our world. We sort of believe in new values, and yet we don't always. Somebody spoke beautifully a few minutes ago about people who claim to be inclusive leaders but aren't really. And then there's a disconnect between what they say they are and how they're experienced, and then you get trust issues.
So trusting themselves. I mean, how will I show up? Using a new way or being a different kind of leader? Will I really be able to do it well? So it's at really two levels, within myself, and also can I really trust the people to be responsible with the autonomy that I would be giving them as I lead differently.
Mm.
What else? What else are you seeing is happening in your current environments?
I think there's an increased need in organizations, or belief of a need for speed and changing on a dime and that kind of thing. And that sense of speed brings people to an edge quite quickly, right. I have to say.
Right, yeah.
What does the edge look like in your experience?
Sorry. Are you asking me or everybody?
I was asking you, and anybody else can respond.
Okay. So quickly, the way I see it really is, there's a lot of anger and fighting and unknown and discomfort. Definitely. What else? There's also like changing directions, not sticking with strategy, shifting too fast, like forgetting to think, no pausing.
Thank you. And maybe there was somebody else who wanted to chip in there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing is also there's fear as well associated with it, because then they're actually not sure if I can trust this autonomy to do things. So that also comes across as well.
So you see, we
sort of like a survival. So will I really survive this thing? If it doesn't work, the stakes are too high. The price to pay might be too high.
So there's uncertainty. So they want to go, but they don't want to go because they're scared that ultimately, let's say, the clients are going to be affected negatively.
Say a little more about that. What's happening in the client space? What's sort of emerging in the client space? I think you're talking about the secondary a bit here.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to go back to primary?
No, I'm cool with that. Just to say a little more, because it feels like you might be opening up some more of the roadmap here.
So your client, obviously, I don't know about the other companies, but for us, the client is your center, and you should be keeping your client happy. So with the new ways of work, is the system trusted to still keep the client at the center and keep, let's say be the most competitive company? So always being ahead of the game.
I think you are speaking to the secondary here, and really want to invite, throw it open here. We're just trying to get this quick scan here of more or less what's the landscape like, what's emerging. Secondary is both what we want and what's just happening to us, what's just emerging.
Mish, can you hear me now?
Yes, Gail, welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. My headphones, the mic was wasn't working. Just to introduce myself, I've known Mish actually for many, many years, but haven't seen him, I think, for about 30 years. However, Mish, first time I'm joining this, so this is all new to me, control and command. But I've realized I've been running my own business for 35 years, and we switched to an agile mode of working last year, and I've realized I've been working agile all my life. Because I started a company, it's still running, it's grown, and I've now got Scrum Masters and all very fancy agile people involved. And the bottom line for me, which I'd like to just put on your edge, either way, for me, it's all about communication.
Say a little bit more about what about communication?
Well, listening to fights and anger, and do people perceive, what your team building, you want their team ownership, you want them to be you want to lead as well. We've actually created an office space now where there are no walls, and there has to be constant communication. We still battle. I don't have all the answers, but that's why I was keen to join your group this evening when it came up and said control and command. I wasn't quite sure what this concept is or what you're trying to, I'm new to it, totally new to it. So I'm just going to listen from this point on. All I wanted to add here was we just push constantly communication. And I have this saying in my office is I pay you for your voice. But an earlier person said that doesn't always work because you always hear the same voices and you don't hear others. So you have to wangle that some way. It's always about how people say things, not what they say. That's another line I tend to use because that's so important. And that is where you try and avoid all those conflictual positions amongst people. And the IT world is so prone to that.
So I don't know if you've seen on the screen, Gail, I've been trying to track what you're saying, and I've put communication with no walls in the secondary. That's the desired state. And it sounds like it's already emerging quite a lot in your business. And as you know, as you said, we knew each other many years ago, and I remember already then you had a good style of that. So I'm not surprised. But what I heard you saying sits at the edge in many organizations is kind of communication gaps. People trying to communicate but not doing it very skillfully. And this is something we see a lot in our work, that people come at this with a good intention, but then something happens. It could be just about getting the work done. It could be that I don't feel quite right because it looks like you don't look the same as me. It could be that I feel like I'm now a man and I'm feeling like I need to hold back because men are always dominating. It could be because I'm white and I just assume I own the place.
And it could be.
It's all those things.
Conflict is quite strong, and I don't know how to deal with that conflict. But I see what needs to happen, So, certainly a lot of what's happening at the edge is it's hard to be with this new communication style where there are no walls. And I'm encouraged to really come in fully and contribute my bit. But when all other kind of stuff comes up, I go back to same old, that's comfortable, and sometimes hide.
I think also somewhere on the edge, there should be something about, so how do I do this? If I don't do command and control, my toolbox is empty. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I might have the ambition to do it, but I'm not sure how to do it. I'm stuck.
And what we see is that sometimes people have that inside of them, particularly leaders, and feel that they should have the answers and don't allow themselves to go out there and get some assistance, you know? And so they just stay with this little secret that really starts getting in the way of them going into the secondary. What else? What else do you see in the secondary? Maybe one or two, and then we'll move on to the next stage of this.
What anybody can hazard what's really wanting to emerge here? I think our world has adopted new values, and something's trying to emerge that many of you are pointing out we're a bit clumsy with at the moment.
So you've got some stuff in the chat.
I'm trying to find a way to get there. I just saw that, and my screen is full screen, and I can't see how to change that. So.
Maybe someone can read it if you can see it, and we'll just read it out and we'll type it in.
I've got it now.
Oh, you got it. Okay, cool.
Okay, in the primary, intergenerational workplaces. Love it. Thank you.
And with that, different approaches to or expectations of leadership.
And this is so welcome. Interesting coming from somebody who's calling in from Canada, because we claim that we are the kings and queens of diversity here in South Africa. So nice to know you're dealing with the same issue in Canada too.
And that just brings to mind for me, when you talk of diversity of cultures and backgrounds with different styles, some of us, whether it's generational or even from our tribal cultures, is that we grew up in an era where children were to be seen and not heard. And my children definitely grew up in a distinctly different kind of culture. And so it was they expect to be treated differently from how I expected to be different and what I tolerated.
Yeah, Ronnie, that triggers me something about the secondary, which also what you said about values, Mish. It's being valued is, I think, it's something central that sits in the secondary. And I think we all dream about being valued, being truly valued.
Certainly.
And I love this piece about pulling the work, free flow, trusting new processes. As a leader, that's what I find the hardest, is that command and control, I have the sense that I've got a handle on this. When I invite people's engagement and let them lead the way, I often don't have the same handle on what's happening. I have to hold my breath in a way while kind of waiting to see what emerges. And that's terrifying because I want to have a handle on the results. And yet I know that holding the results too tightly, in fact, generates negative energy.
There's a bit that you just said was about people do want to feel that their contributions are valued and they are leveraged. And when that doesn't happen, we see them exiting the organization.
Yeah, either mentally or physically.
Yeah.
First mentally and then later physically.
Yeah. We're finding that increasingly. Where people just disengage, and it's like they've put up a wall after a while and management can't get to them. And it's just like a devil may care attitude exists.
Yeah, I don't
know. The challenge for leadership is to shift them from that back into, okay, let's have a collaborative, collegiate conversation.
So I think one thing that misses is primary, we don't like failure. And if we go on to the secondary, we kind of encourage failure for learning purposes. I think Gail said something like trust in new process. We have plenty of that and it works. However, encourage it to, but make it clear that the new processes may not work and try to catch it early. So allowing it to fail it.
Yeah. Wow, wonderful contributions, everyone. I mean, it's certainly, this is rich. This is quite useful.
I think there's also a mind shift when it comes to control and letting go. If you're delegating or you're letting go, it's not an abdication of responsibility. And I think a lot of people feel that it's an abdication. It's not. It's actually, you know, the intention is to grow others. So it's very important that leaders understand, again, that delegation or letting go is not an abdication.
Yes. Yeah. So in a way, it's a secondary, it's kind of a new way, a new attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fully and squarely in the secondary process. Yeah.
And there's a letting go, I think I heard you say as well.
Yep.
And that's scary, don't you think?
Say that again?
It's scary letting go, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially if your natural inclination is to just hold everything very tightly. Is to hold everything very tightly. And there's one other point too, just about that intergenerational workplace. Whether we like it or not, the fact is that, you know, within the next couple of years, Gen Y and Gen Z are going to be more than 50% of the workforce. And so with this influx of people coming in, those who are operating from a more traditional standpoint are going to be faced with this increasing number of millennials coming in who are going to be demanding a different style of leadership. So there will almost be a forced change that will need to happen.
I think that's such a key point, Joe. And I mean, it's back to also having a purpose. They want a purpose at work. They don't want a job. They're not there for the salary check. They're much more there for being valued and having a purpose and being a contributor. I just sat in a large organization here in South Africa, and I was speaking to the HR person, and we had a bit of a laugh because the managers were complaining about what the millennials were asking for and how they were responding in meetings. And that's the real edge behavior. Managers complaining about the millennials. They're not ready to actually realize, well, I need to adapt and be curious and start adjusting instead of expecting the millennials to fit into an outdated model.
Yes. So really pushing themselves and looking at what's the need behind that complaint that these millennials are bringing in. They lost opportunity if they don't go there.
Correct.
I was working with a team recently where they identified this problem, and we had them step into each other's worlds. And you know, I've done it before, and quite often you find the older people, the managers, are quite good at stepping into the world of the young people because they once were there. You know, most managers have been promoted. But this group, I was pretty amazed to see that the senior people were extraordinarily unempathetic about what it's like being young in the workplace today. And the young people were quite skilled in understanding what their seniors were up against. So I'm just saying yes to your description of the sort of complaint about young people being an edge behavior. I think it's something about I'm being asked as a leader to change more than I know how to do. And so I just start firing bullets, basically.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've found incredibly useful in this work, and that we really teach in these courses and work with as coaches, is taking it more towards a systems perspective, so that it's less about who did what to whom. And I think the map that we've just generated on the screen and in our minds as we've been talking is more of a systemic map of what overall is going on here. What's it like now? What's it trying to get like? And it kind of normalizes the edge behavior, that if we are shifting directions, it's not surprising that there are trust issues, that there's fear, that there's anger, that there's fighting. And I think these are some of the tools for the new leaders to kind of get to grips with the inevitable emotional challenges. So I just want to say thank you, because I think you're starting to build that tapestry that is a resource for leaders.
Yeah. And I think what's also evident here quite strongly is that the age stuff is quite hard to deal with, and that leaders do need assistance to really cross those edges, those blockages. And without the skills, and none of us really go into the workspace with a 101 in psychology, we're kind of expected to fill the space of leadership when we're promoted, and then we're confronted by all of these demons, uncertainty, anger, a kind of shifting to see directions, going back and forth from the old to the new. I'm not yet who I was, and I'm not yet who I'm going to be. Quite kind of a very hard place to be in. But we know that once leaders are skilled and they know what they're dealing with, they know how to deal with age, then it becomes relatively easier, not easy, but relatively easier to step into the secondary and start becoming more of who they are becoming. And so a lot of what we do with the coaching that we do and the teaching of coaching skills is really helping people understand this process of change and dealing with the blockages. So, Penny, for your thoughts.
You said it so beautifully, Ronnie.
What are you sitting with at this moment? Yeah, go ahead, Klaus.
No, I think you summed that up really beautiful. I think as a leader, sitting at that edge is not easy at all. I always try and also take a perspective of a very personal place, because although we project this onto corporations, we all sit with these edges, and they're a tricky place to be. Even sometimes when the secondary is extremely vivid and we have a huge passion for it.
Yeah.
Crossing the edge it needs guidance, and like you were saying, it's good to reach out to other people, and we need to find different role models, because some of our role models in the past, be it school, society, or even previous employers where we maybe grown up as a leader, kind of gave us a role model of command and control.
Yes.
And if we don't have a new role model, it's extremely difficult to live with that secondary that keeps on nudging internally, but we don't know how to really bring it to life.
Yeah.
I wanted to say the other thing that I think is useful about a coaching approach to all of this is that in the end, there is an accountability piece. Because I think, like, I still, the CEO in me still has enormous sympathy with the leader who wants to get the stuff done. And to me, the accountability part of coaching is the sort of security around that. We've got somebody who talked about allowing free flow and delivery, trusting new processes. So that's the kind of, it happens to be in green, not very, very appropriately. But the harder side of that is there does need to be accountability. And I feel like that's what helps a leader get over the edge, is the idea that, yes, I'm going to give a lot more space to my people. I'm going to support them in delivering rather than telling them how to deliver.
We want to allow a culture that is forgiving, a little more towards forgiving than judging and punishing. So instead of hating failure, really embracing it as an opportunity to learn, develop and grow new ways and effective ways of leveraging and getting contribution from the people we lead. And yet, at the same time, there's still that imperative of making sure that we deliver spectacularly and within increasingly shorter time spans or turnaround times. So it's quite a difficult tension to hold as a leader.
And I just want to say that this is the work that the two of us, and I know many of you on this call, this is where our focus lies, is we're facing a tapestry like the one in front of you on the screen. And I really believe that as coaches, we have something enormously valuable to offer. And as systems coaches, we're addressing this head on. We're not just taking one person out of the system and kind of patching them up and then sticking them back into the same broken system. We're actually working with that whole system of, as many of you pointed out so beautifully, not just the leader having difficulty letting go, but also the followers having difficulty following, having an edge behavior of their own around wanting to be told what to do and yet wanting to be consulted. So I really think that the practice of systems coaching is something that we should be celebrating on this call. And I want to make the point that we also train in this. And I know some of you are here on the call wanting to know more about the training methodology. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so that I can see all your faces. And just check whether there's anybody got any questions, particularly about ORSC, but it could be about systems coaching more generally as well. As our time is running towards the end, we wanted to give you a chance with questions.
Hi guys, what is systems coaching? Maybe you could elaborate some more. It just intrigued me right now.
Okay. I mean, first thing is coaching. So the essence of coaching is sitting with a client and helping the client to figure out what's emerging, what's wanting to happen, and then challenging and supporting that client to make it happen, whatever it is that they want to happen. Relationship systems coaching, the client is the whole team or the whole organization rather than an individual. So it's getting the tools to converse and exchange and work with the whole team rather than one by one with the individuals. Getting the tools for all the voices to be heard in that team or organization or community, and then letting that team and then creating a space for that team or organization or community to make the decisions, make the commitments, and then hold itself accountable for action.
Thank you for that.
And I hope you saw a little bit of a sample of that in the sense that we took you as a system of just people of the world, citizens of the world, and really try to create
consent about
yes.
And part of what really distinguishes systems is that there is some degree of interdependence. So people depend on each other for a particular outcome. If you were to go on and take this further outside of this call, as a system, you would be having that shared interest and kind of driving a different leadership style and seeing it manifest in different organizations and in societies as a whole. So hard focus on shifting the collective set of clients that you're working with, and soft focus on the individuals that you're working with, so that there's a whole shift of everybody in tandem.
Other questions?
I have a question. I'm curious if there is a methodology that you use in terms of specifically around, command and control with clients. Maybe there's something you do as a group or something that goes, beyond what we did here today. Is that what we're talking about that you're leading into? And I'm curious about that.
So I mean, we're leading into, on the one hand, just that there is this training, which you've already done, but not everybody on the call has. And
oh, right, okay.
We've got a course coming up towards the end of November, 25th and 26th of November in Johannesburg. But what we found is working extremely well is, and we just gave you a taste of that, and some of you are familiar with it, but just that putting this problem out in front in the whole team and having the leaders and the followers in the team together and having them do more or less what we had you do. Just take a look at what's it like, what do we want it to be like. We then have, as you would know, a kind of an array of tools that we use to help them to work through the different things. How do we work with conflict? How do we work with difference? How do we work with the sort of dreams that we have that are in fact not being fulfilled?
Mm-hmm. So kind of into resolving the issues that are facing as a community. so that those attitudes have create a vibe or an environment that is collaborative.
Right.
So if people have got different voices, one of the key attitudes that we inculcate is being with difference, no matter how confronting it is for you as an individual. So really working that into the coaching or training, whatever we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm wondering if it's helpful, Mish, you mentioned an advantage of coaching. I mean, the other thing that I always punt about the advantage of coaching, and I'm kind of comparing it to a training, is that the work is ongoing. So, you know, what I've experienced previously is that you go to 2 or 3 days of fabulous training, and then when you go back into the office where the rubber hits the road, it's almost impossible to hold the rudder you know, for such a long time to actually manage to do the change. And with coaching, you really, you know, kind of work it over a period and support the team with that change and to cross the edge together. And I think that's such a useful contribution that coaching actually brings compared to just pure training.
Yes, and there are many things that contribute to embedding that change. But 2 key things around formulating actions after people have developed insights or have had some new learnings, and also the accountability bit. So what have you done about what you've learned and what's getting in the way? And still holding people accountable to the overall goal or set of goals for the coaching.
We've just got a couple of minutes left, and we'd really love for ourselves and you all to hear everybody's voices once again. And just inviting you to check out with a word or a phrase with the kind of top thing you're taking away. Someone's already done it online. She's saying the wise voices and floating heads. But really, let's just follow the reverse order of my screen, starting with Tabby and then Gail. Oh, Tabby just left, I think. Just lost you, Tabby. No, you're still there.
I'm still here. No, I think what I'm taking is creating a collaborative environment. What you just said now, I like that actually. That's what
Thank you. Thank you, Tabby. And Gail's next, and then Elizabeth Ann. You're still muted, Gail?
Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, when I unmute, it seems to go very quiet, so I'm just going to speak, but I possibly can't hear you. Yeah, I realize that I'm probably at the other end of the scale where maybe Mish is sitting and the likes of the program that you're running. I'm absolutely intrigued because we've actually brought on board a Scrum coach who's been working with us now for almost 2 years. And there's no doubt it's made an absolute difference to our organization. So I noticed there was something, how many people respond to a coach. That has been an onward battle because we've grown and we've brought in people from the normal corporate world. And I had a wonderful incident today, if I can just share it with you, Mish. I hope I don't take up too much time. But he drew two...
Bottom line it, Gail.
Sorry?
Bottom line it, I say.
The bottom line is he drew 2 triangles, one upside down and one normal triangle, and the one was management at the top and, you know, ordering, telling everybody what they have to do down to the bottom. You probably know these models. And another one with a triangle, normal stage, management at the bottom, culture, and you actually don't know what's going to come out at the end of it. And he said to me, he's been working with us for a while, coming from a very big corporate, and he said he thinks he's finally been enlightened, that he understands what we're trying to do. It's hard work. It's hard work. There's no doubt about it. It's not a silver bullet.
Gail, you're so welcome here, Gail, as a practicing business manager and business leader. You're not alone, although you've probably heard quite a few coaching voices, but a number of other people here have got strong business backgrounds. So just really welcoming that, and wonderful to know you're out there actually doing it. So
I don't know if we're doing it, Mish. That's what I'm saying to you. It's just a
Okay,
journey.
well, maybe you can hire some of these folks on the call as your to widen your coaching. There are quite a lot of agile coaches who are now doing ORSC as well to kind of do the more people side of agile.
I'd like to hear more about it.
Yeah, I want to give everybody else a chance to check out. So who's next? Is Elizabeth Ann, I think, and then Lolo.
So it was great to just hear that I'm not the only one in this situation. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's me.
And then Lolo. You still muted?
I was just writing the same thing, and because I have to go, but I feel very supported by this. I'm encountering a lot of scenarios like this and having difficulty, deciding what to do, but I feel very supported and asserted to hear other coaches are encountering the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Lolo. Refil, where's next? And then Isaac.
Okay, for me, it's encouraged to really stay the path, I think Klaus was mentioning when the tire hits the road, things may be different, but it's a matter of being persistent, I think, and, never giving up. So that's what I'm taking out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Isaac. And then Rika.
Are you there, Isaac? It's gone. Uhambile.
Okay. Should we go on to Rika and then we'll come back to you, Isaac? Rika?
My takeout is simply confirmation on using the H model for activation or a systems integration that I've got planned. So thank you.
Thank
you. Yes.
You may want to just type on the chat line, Isaac. It's hard to hear you.
Yeah, like I said in the introduction, we are playing already in the city. I say, can you hear me?
Isaac, we can't really hear you. We're going to ask you to just type it in the chat window because the bandwidth is not good enough for your audio. So we're going to move on to Jenny and then Klaus.
You can hear me.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
Do you mind putting it on the chat line, Isaac? Sorry, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Hey, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this topic. Like someone else said, I feel encouraged that I'm not alone in some of the challenges I'm dealing with in the particular organization. Two takeaways is just putting the problem out in the open with the whole team. It can be easy trying to deal with it with particular people, but it has to be the whole team looking at it together. As challenging as that can be, because then people bring the edge behaviors into the team. And then the second thing for me, just something that's popped up now for what's wanting to emerge is slow the pace. Because someone else mentioned that the primary is this need for speed, and it's very hard to develop new models and new ways of working without slowing down.
Thank you. Klaus is next and then Mark.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that we get together to discuss these very challenging and very real topics. And I think it's good to build community around these topics because they're challenging for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, it was fantastic to hear all of these people talking and sharing their experiences. I mean, the idea of respecting everyone's voice and valuing their voices is obvious and would seem to be, perfectly reasonable. And then but the scary bit of not having the authority figure, which is causing consternation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think I love where we ended with your voice, because most of what we're talking about is complete common sense. It's actually really simple, but doing those really simple common sense things that are good for relationship are actually extraordinarily difficult, and it takes skill and it takes support and it takes practice. And I think it's been a pleasure working with you all tonight, just taking that one step further.
Thank you for sharing your wisdoms. We always find that when we do tap into the people we're working with, we leave with an incredible wealth of perspectives. So thank you for bringing yourselves forward, and hope our paths cross soon.